SoresanCrockxen clan members, anime time fans, and others who host up on this video. I'm SoresanCrockxen, and today we're going to be doing Lord Marksman and Vanadis. Let's go. Alright, so Lord Marksman, the story. It's kind of weird. I honestly was kind of lost at the beginning because I honestly didn't think there was a story. And then it kind of got mixed in with a lot of the stuff that was going on, and eventually I kind of maybe understand what was going on. So you have the main character, Tigre Vermund, really weird name. Really? No, okay, hold on. It was Count Tigre Mundovorn, something like that. And essentially, his town was being, his area was being attacked. It's kind of like, it's not really a city, but it's a little bit bigger than a town. But so his area was being threatened. And they're like the beginning of the series. Essentially, there was a fight going on between him and another army, or his army and another army. But his got wiped out, and he was the sole survivor. And then like the leader of the other group was coming in, and then like he stood his ground to fight her, and she took him prisoner, and that's where our story began. And it's essentially, I guess the whole point is to make sure that his area stays safe from other enemies. So when he's gonna defend his area, he makes a deal with the leader of the other group, which is actually one of the other, I guess you could say, main character. And she kind of like makes a deal with him to like okay, so he can have part of her army to defend his hometown, but he is forever a group, like he now belongs to her, and his village, his area now kind of falls into her control after everything is done. And it's just a bunch of fights with like armies versus armies and stuff like that. That's basically what happens throughout this. But yeah, that's the story, or at least what I assume is the story of the show. Now, animation-wise, and music, so technically this is an animation music, the soundtrack, the OST tracks were not that bad. Really enjoyed them. The opening is fantastic. In fact, I fell in love with it the first moment I heard it, and I was just like looking it up, listening to it over and over and over again. It was just really, really good. I really liked it. But the animation itself was actually pretty decent. The only kind of minor issue I have is that because it was a series that was meant to be an army versus another army, they had a lot of really weird wide shots. And I mean like weird in the sense that you just saw like people in armor on top of horses running into each other on multiple occasions. The only thing that changed between fights was the color of the enemy. That's basically it. And it was kind of like weird to see that, because I mean, I thought the whole point of it was just to see the main characters and them in the fight. But when they did these, and it was just really, it was kind of so pointless half the time, because they did other versions of the fight, like, or the big armies clashing, where you actually saw this army charging forward, and then you saw the other army charging forward, and I liked that way more than these weird ass over the top wide shots that they did. They're not wide shots because you're not using camera to record it, but like, you know, that kind of style. It was just really jarring to, I mean, it's not that it was just bad, but it was just really annoying to see those. And when I much preferred the front facing forward our guys versus the front facing forward of the other guys, and then both of them come together while being right next to them. Because I don't know, that was the only thing that really bugged me about it. The characters look really nice. I love Tigre's design. He looks like a badass. Okay, he's just, oh my gosh, amazing. But yeah, moving on. Now, once again, since I already said this is a really big show in terms of like it's army versus army, so there's actually like a bunch of characters that they introduce. But I'm only gonna cover four, maybe five. The two main characters, a very important secondary character, um, a character like this is the one that's like kind of an iffy, who kind of has a big important role near the end, in terms of character growth for Tigre, and another person who I just like her as a character. But before we get to that aspect, I want to complain because this is one of the biggest problem with this section of the reviews. It's essentially they do this in the opening, and it pissed me off that they did this in the opening. They show off technically all okay. Before I say that, in this show, there's a hierarchy in the entire kingdom. You have the king, and then you have the royal knights, and then which are kind of tied with the female main characters' ranking. They're war maidens. War maidens. There's like 8 girls, technically speaking, who are like have such tremendous power. Like they're the only ones that have actually like powers in the show. They wield this thing that's called the dragon gear, and it gives him a different like elements for their abilities. Like the main character Eleonora, the female main character Eleonora has a sword that controls wind. Another one of the girls I'm going to talk about, Lumia, she has ice as her ability. We see one that uses light. We see one that creates portals. They vary, right? And so because they have these special powers and there's very limited of them, they have authority in the kingdom. So there's around, I think, if I remember correctly, there's 8 of them that are shown off in the opening. Yet we really only see 2 of them. Like the 2 girls I'm going to be talking about, those are really the only ones. We see the one that uses light, which I honestly cannot remember her name for the life of me because she only showed up in like 2 episodes, and it was only for like maybe 5 minutes total, just of the whole thing. And her role wasn't really that important. They kind of sprinkled in like maybe the portal chick. She showed up for like maybe 15 seconds, if that. 2 of them didn't even show up at all in the entire series. One of them we saw for a little bit, and she was bedridden, so there was really nothing for her to do. And it really annoys me because they showed off all 8 of them in the opening, and I was just like prepared to see them, and then nothing. And the series, I'm going to talk about that in the final episode section of the video, but it really irritates me. It just irritates me. But anyways, talking specifically characters. So we have Tigre, who is a boss. He's actually amazing. Essentially, he is, like I said, he's a count, and he's the ruler of a certain area, which is called Alsace, or Alsace, or something like that. And so, like I say, he actually says this at one point in the series. People have pride. He has mettle. He just likes to get involved in things and will not stop until he gets what he wants to do done. So that's basically his whole gimmick. The thing that I love about him the most is that everybody in the show uses arrows. Or, dang it, I already said that. They use swords. For the most part, everybody that fights in the armies use swords. And you know how when you do it like at least that old school type of army, you have the archers in the back, and then you have the main battalion are the ones that charge in with spears and swords. He doesn't do that. He fights on the front lines with a bow and arrows. He doesn't care. And that's particularly why I love the character so much. He goes in with bow and arrow, and he just snipes people in the face, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. There's times where he just pierces armor with the thing, and I'm just like, okay, that happened. There's actually multiple occasions where they're 2 armies are clashing. He just comes in like snipes like 3-4 people in the head through their helmets, and they just die. And I'm just like, okay, so he's coming in. And later on, he actually gets an ally, like a friend that has like extra arrow pouches. And so like when he runs out, he like trades with the guy. He's like, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this man is a boss. He does get a upgraded arrow bow because the one that he started off with actually breaks. Um, and that one is actually like a family heirloom type of thing, and it's supposed to have like magic properties or something like that. They really don't explain it too much. Excuse me. Other than the fact that it's a black bow, and like when you use the power within, it creates explosions when you shoot the arrow. You can use stuff to control the winds and stuff. It was really awkward sometimes. Honestly, I hate the fact they didn't explain that too much. But anyway, so then we have Eleonora, who she's like the female main protagonist. She is a war maiden, and she wears the dragon gear of winds. Um, I think it's stupid that she really only has two attacks. Throughout the whole series, she only used two attacks. It was Ley Adamos, and I don't remember the name of the second one because she rarely. I think she used that one like maybe twice, but she was always constantly using Ley Adamos. She made it sound like it was her finishing move, but you would think if it's your finishing move, you wouldn't be constantly using the same damn thing. And it was just she's she's very arrogant sometimes. She actually now that I'm gonna talk about the next character, she really has a rivalry with the other character, and was kind of sometimes got really. It was for stupid shit half the time, but other times it was kind of like funny. I like the fact that they were sometimes like kind of have these these weird ass stupid fights over Tigre because for some reason Eleonora kind of like started liking Tigre, and so Ludmilla would start like pretend flirting. I honestly don't know if she actually started liking him or she was just playing around. Um, but Eleonora does have that kind of mentality of like he's mine type of thing, and and she uses the thing of no, he's my prisoner as a way to say he's mine, but we know what she means when she says that. Lumia, she's kind of the opposite of Eleanor because Eleanor, like, she's kind of like free spirited. I didn't say, but whereas Ludmilla, she's more straightforward. She's very like rule heavy. So she likes to follow the rules and stuff like that. She has standards. Um, a lot of the stuff that involves her, her whole betrayal of her actual like how do I say this? Because she's, war maidens tend to side with a specific city, or yeah, kind of region. So they're kind of all divided. But the thing is, Lumia, since because of what happened with Tigre, she kind of ended up betraying her region and went with Tigre to help him do his thing. Um, well, that's really the only time she ever went against her rules. Um, I love her ice powers though. Her ice powers were great. It was crazy, amazing. Um, what else? Oh yeah, I should probably mention that there was one episode where Eleonora and Lumia kind of like worked together to take down some dragons, but just came out of nowhere and they just completely disappeared after that. So that's a thing. And then okay, so then let's talk about the character I was kind of iffy talking about. Okay, so this is a character named Bertrand, and he kind of works under Tigre, like he's one of the members of the house that Tigre controls. And he like really the only shining moment, like he was okay throughout the series, but really the shining moment for him was literally like I think it was the second to last episode. Because what ended up happening is they were infiltrating this city to later infiltrate the capital to prove that the person that was with them, which is a princess, which I'm not going to really get into because that whole subplot was kind of stupid at the end. He ends up dying protecting Tigre. Like he actually sacrificed himself to protect Tigre from what would have been a fatal blow. And what ended up happening is that Tigre kind of grew from that. It was kind of late, but he kind of okay. So what ended up happening? He didn't have full control of the bow's powers, so like they would randomly activate, and half the time he was borrowing it from Eleonora's dragon gear. But at that moment, because of what happened to Bertram, he actually fired off an arrow using the bow's power on his own. And then later on, we'll get to the final episode. But something happens, okay? We're gonna go into that in the final episode. And then last but not least, I want to talk about Tita because she is amazing and just great. Oh my gosh. Essentially Tita is Tigre's maid, more or less. Well, the reason why I like her so much is because they really build her up, which is really surprising because they didn't really do that with a lot of the other characters that should have been important. But what ended up happening is that they really see they showed off the Tigre and well, really it was more Eleanor's side because this is supposed to be like part romance. It really pushed, or at least it made it seem like they were really pushing that section, like that romantic stuff. But I honestly prefer Tigre with Tita because they give us a whole bunch of backstory. And the fact that both of them are technically the same age, they knew each other when they were little, they grew up together, they've always been together. And like Tigre acts more normal with her than with anybody else. And she's always like there to support him because well, she does it like she's supposed to because she works for him. But the moments they have together just made it feel like they were just. I was like, screw the powerful, almighty war maidens. Get them out of here. You, Tigre and Tita, just go and do your thing over there. And it was, oh my gosh, it was just so awesome. And her the way she actually kind of helps Tigre in certain situations in terms of moral support, because she actually doesn't really do any fighting at all. But the way they pushed her moral support for Tigre was just phenomenal. It was just phenomenal. But yeah, so that's characters. Moving on. By the way, I have no idea what the heck that was at the end. But anyway, so the final episode of this series is it's kind of very straightforward. And it did have this stupid, over the top, wide shot thing in the beginning. It was clearly stupid. But essentially what ended up happening is that it's now Tigre versus Thénardier, which I probably should have talked about in characters, but really, he's supposed to be the main villain, yet we really don't see him very often. Like I said, they show him off in the opening too, but we don't really get to see too much of the guy. But he's there, and he has a big ass sword, and Tigre's gonna fight him, and it ended up being just one arrow to the face, and he died, and I was just like, well, it's done, we're done, let's go, moving on. What happened afterwards is actually what matters. Essentially, they go to the kingdom because the king was dying, or like the king was sick. He actually had been poisoned, and now he's dying. So Tigre and them have to the war is over finally, right? That kind of mentality. The war's over, so they're going to the capital to meet the king, have a moment, talk to him. Tigre gets the honor of Lumiere, which is like the Knight of Light or something like that. I don't even remember what the heck it was. It's supposed to be an honorary title, and apparently people who get that title become king. So I guess Tigre is gonna be the king. And then the princess is technically the ruler now. Tigre is now in Eleanor's city region. Tita is with him once again, which is awesome. And there's gonna build a highway type place, not really a highway, but more like a. They're gonna unite because now Alsace belongs to her region, and they're gonna build like this path. It's basically like a road. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. I can't even talk today. They're gonna make a road in between them so that there could be like easy passageway between them and like tradings and stuff like that. We'll all work together. And yeah, that's basically it. Final episode. That's basically all there is to it. So, Lord Marksman and Vanadis. It was really good, but it had a couple flaws. The kind of somewhat repetitive actions. And one of the biggest problem with strategy shows, or shows that have characters, or where the fights are strategic, is that they really can't draw them out. They're very quick, and I mean, it's not like anybody can pull a Full Metal Alchemist. I'm sorry, but that show, it was strategic, but it was fast paced in terms of how the fights were going. But they weren't short. They were actually the perfect length for a strategy fight. But when you have a show like Lord Marksman and Vanadis, where your strategies is army versus army, and really all you have to do is kill the general, these fights didn't really last very long, and most of the episode, or well, the way it worked is you have the strategy, and half the time we didn't even see a strategy meeting. They were just there. We're gonna do it, and then I'm just like, okay, what the heck are you gonna do? And then they did it, and I was like, okay, what the heck? How did you guys? I don't even know. You're not explaining anything. But then the fights were like that because all you had to do, like they did a couple like non-important soldiers killing other non-important soldiers and then retaliating and people dying and then boom, dead, gone. Okay, and so it kind of felt lacking in that sense because I like more. I mean, I liked the fights. Don't get me wrong. I like, or not the fights themselves. I like the characters. That's literally what had me going through the series. Because honestly, those fights were meaningless half the time, and since they were so fast, it honestly didn't matter half the time. What was stupid, like, well, okay, it's not stupid, but the weird part is that there were sections where you have like the actual main general like sitting on the sidelines, doing nothing while the army is like divided and stuff, and they kind of did this whole thing where it was like a chessboard to show like it was like Tigre, like a Tigre figure, like it was like chess, and then Eleonora, and then like the other army, and they showed like somewhat of the strategy while it was happening, but it was lacking. It was kind of lacking, and there was no excitement behind the fights. And half the time, if you even attempted to get excited, by the time you got excited, the thing was over. So, as a rating for this show, I say maybe. I mean, unless you're like a very heavy character person, like you really just watch shows, or you watch shows mainly for characters, then I say finish it. But if you're not that kind of person, I honestly say just look at it. Maybe watch the first 2 episodes, through 2 or 3 episodes, and then like maybe decide for yourself whether you think it's worth your time or not. But yeah, so that's other than that, that's basically all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm SoresanCrockxen. This has been another Anime Time with Soresan. I told you guys there was gonna be like 3 of them this weekend. But anyways, guys, that's it. See you guys in future videos.